Imagine waking up in a restaurant you do not remember entering. Nobody explains the dress code. A waiter hands you a menu, but the menu is blank. You ask what you are supposed to order. The waiter looks worried and says, "That is entirely your responsibility." This is roughly Jean-Paul Sartre's view of human existence, although Sartre used more cigarettes. He said we are condemned to be free. By this, he did not mean we can fly, walk through walls, or become a qualified surgeon by feeling strongly about it. He meant that we cannot escape having to choose what to do with the situation we are given. Even refusing to choose becomes a choice. That is the condemnation. To understand it, begin with Sartre's famous claim that existence precedes essence. An object, such as a chair, has an essence before it exists. Someone decides what it is for, designs it, and then produces it. If the chair cannot support anyone, it has failed at being a chair. It may still find work in modern art, but the original plan has gone badly. In Sartre's atheistic existentialism, human beings arrive without this kind of preset design. There is no divine instruction sheet specifying your purpose, character, career, and morally approved sandwich filling. First, you exist. Then, through what you do, you gradually define who you are. This does not mean you create yourself from nothing. You are born into circumstances you did not select. You have a body, a family, a language, a historical period, and a suspicious number of passwords. Other people have already made decisions that shape your possibilities. Sartre calls these given facts your facticity. Facticity is everything about your situation that is already there. You did not choose your birthplace or your past. If you are locked in a room, positive thinking does not make the door evaporate. The door remains committed to its role. But Sartre argues that a person is never only these facts. Consciousness can step back from what currently exists. You can imagine what is absent, reject a possibility, form a plan, or decide that the thing you have been doing for 6 years is unbearable. A rock simply is what it is. It does not lie awake wondering whether it has wasted its potential as a rock. A person is different. We are always reaching beyond what we currently are toward what we might become. Sartre calls this transcendence. Not floating above the furniture, but going beyond the given through projects, interpretations, and choices. Human existence is therefore caught between facticity and transcendence. You are the facts of your life, but you are not merely those facts. You are also what you make of them. A blank restaurant menu is not magical. The kitchen has limited ingredients. Some dishes are unavailable. The building may be on fire. You still have to respond. And quietly eating the napkin is also a response. If careful thinking delivered with questionable hand-eye coordination sounds useful, subscribe, and we will continue making the menu unnecessarily philosophical. This helps explain why Sartre calls freedom a condemnation rather than a pleasant, optional extra. You did not choose to be born, but once you are here, you cannot permanently hand your agency back to the front desk. You can ask parents, traditions, experts, political movements, personality tests, or extremely confident strangers what to do. Their answers may be useful. They may also save you from ordering something poisonous, but you still decide whether to follow them. Suppose your family expects you to become a lawyer. You become a lawyer and say, "I had no choice." Sartre would object. Perhaps the alternatives were painful. Refusal might have cost money, security, approval, or contact with your family. Those are real constraints. But saying there was literally no choice hides the decision you made to value certain outcomes over others. You chose the career rather than paying those costs. This is what makes Sartre's freedom radical. Choosing is not just selecting between pleasant options. Sometimes every available path is awful. Freedom remains because you must still take up some attitude and course of action within the situation. This also produces radical responsibility. Sartre is not saying you caused everything that happens to you. A prisoner did not choose the prison bars. A person facing discrimination did not create the system restricting them. A serious illness is not a lifestyle preference made by the spleen. The claim is that while we do not control every condition, we remain involved in how we understand and respond to those conditions. We choose projects within them. We decide what they mean for what we attempt next, although the available attempts may be brutally narrow. This is a demanding idea, and Sartre sometimes states it in ways that can sound much too absolute. Material conditions, coercion, trauma, poverty, and political oppression do more than provide interesting obstacles for a heroic chooser. They can crush possibilities, damage a person's ability to act, and make some choices barely meaningful. Sartre's later work gave greater attention to these social and historical conditions. The basic point, however, remained that freedom is always situated. It is never freedom from nowhere. The opposite mistake is to treat yourself as nothing but your situation. Sartre calls this kind of self-deception bad faith. Bad faith happens when we hide our own freedom from ourselves, usually because responsibility is uncomfortable and would like us to stop looking at it. In Being and Nothingness, Sartre describes a café waiter who performs his role with exaggerated precision. His movements are a little too eager and mechanical. He acts as though he is not a person working as a waiter, but a waiter object whose entire being is determined by the job. There is nothing wrong with serving coffee professionally. The bad faith lies in pretending the role completely defines him. We do this whenever we say, "That is just who I am," as if our personality were a small appliance with factory settings. I am an angry person. I am not brave. I am the sort of person who never apologizes. These statements turn past behavior into a permanent essence. They make identity sound like a medical condition for which responsibility would be impolite. Sartre would say your past matters, but it does not dictate your next act. If you repeatedly behave cowardly, that pattern is real. Still, each new situation asks what you will do now. Bad faith can also move in the opposite direction. Instead of pretending we are only fixed facts, we can pretend we are pure freedom with no past or consequences. Someone betrays a friend and says, "That action does not define me." In one sense, this is true. No single action exhausts a person. But if the statement is used to avoid apology or repair, freedom has become a small smoke bomb. Your past does not mechanically determine you, but it is still your past. Other people are not required to forget it because you have discovered existentialism. So honest freedom requires holding both sides together. I am not merely what has happened to me or what I have done before, but I am not detached from those things either. I must choose from here, in this body, with this history, among these possibilities. There is another reason freedom produces anguish. When no rule can choose for us, we cannot guarantee in advance that our decision is correct. Sartre gives the example of a young man deciding whether to remain with his dependent mother or leave to join the fight against Nazi occupation. Family loyalty points one way, political duty points another. A moral rule such as help others does not settle which person or cause he should help. He can seek advice, but choosing an advisor already reveals which kind of answer he is prepared to hear. Eventually, he must decide without receiving a certificate from the universe. This is anguish. It is not simply panic. It is the awareness that values become real through human commitments, and that no external formula removes our responsibility for those commitments. Critics worry that this leaves morality arbitrary. If we create values by choosing, why not choose cruelty? Sartre's early account does not provide an easy moral rulebook, but it does not follow that every choice is equally honest or defensible. A person who demands freedom for themselves while treating others as mere objects falls into contradiction. Our projects unfold in a shared world filled with other free people, each inconveniently possessing a point of view. Still, existentialism offers no machine that produces correct answers. It gives us something less comforting. It asks us to examine whether we are hiding behind roles, rules, emotions, or circumstances to avoid admitting our participation in what we do. And this is why existential freedom is not the cheerful claim that anything is possible. Anything is not possible. You cannot choose yesterday differently. You cannot guarantee success. You cannot control other people, history, gravity, or the kitchen's alarming shortage of potatoes. But within those limits, you are continually making something of what has been made of you. The blank menu was never a promise that every meal exists. It was a warning that no meal arrives already marked as yours. You did not choose the restaurant. You did not choose all the ingredients. You may not even like the available options, but the waiter is still standing there. And eventually, even silence becomes your order.